learned this week of unhappy tidings for supporters of the 7 National Hockey League teams based in Canada. That's the goal song adopted by the Calgary Flames in the background, i.e. TNT by AC/DC. Just impeccable taste, the Calgary Flames. Big hello to all our listeners in Calgary.
Hello!
We learned, however, that fans of the Calgary Flames and of the NHL teams in 6 other Canadian jurisdictions may shortly have to find some other means of whiling away the long winter evenings. For we learned that the People's Republic of China is planning to, somehow unclear on the details as of this recording, abolish ice hockey in Canada, and along with it, again not sure how this is going to work exactly, do away with the Stanley Cup, so also leaving the remaining American NHL teams with nothing to play for. And we learned this from...
Oh no.
Oh yes. We learned that in the course of a characteristically coherent social media post about a bridge or whatever, US President Donald Trump had relayed China's alleged threat to abolish hockey, which we learned when we went into it a bit was actually an update of a previous meditation on this subject, specifically...
I know China very well. I know President Xi is a friend of mine. I know him very well, but that's a big hurdle to go over when you get Canada. The first thing they're going to do is say you're not allowed to play ice hockey anymore. That's not good.
So we learned basically that if any Canadian NHL team does want to break that 33-year Stanley Cup drought north of the border, they'd better get their skates on? Is that anything? But we learned that even red, white and blue-blooded all-American winter athletes were not safe, especially if they insisted on actually exercising those First Amendment freedoms that seething Trumpists are forever loudly defending. We learned this from the response to US freestyle skier Hunter Hess, who was one of several American competitors at the ongoing Winter Olympics in Milan and vicinity, expressing ambivalence about the flag on their jacket in what we shall refer to as the circumstances.
It brings up mixed emotions to represent the U.S. right now, I think. It's a little hard. There's obviously a lot going on that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think a lot of people aren't. Just because I'm wearing the flag doesn't mean I represent everything that's going on in the U.S.
And we learned that we would not need to wait long to hear from the circumstances.
The president also called Hess, quote, a real loser, and said it's, quote, very hard to root for someone like this.
Quite right, and we can surely all agree that expressing discomfort with the spectacle of masked goons employed by the state shooting citizens dead in the street is a much worse betrayal of your own country on the international stage than, to pluck a completely random example out of thin air, publicly taking the word of the president of Russia over that of your own country's intelligence services. But we learned that the 5th column of woke subversive communists destroying America from within were really kicking it up a notch. We learned that this, i.e. Bad Bunny's halftime show at the Super Bowl, which might well have given every appearance of being a witty, joyous and inclusive celebration of Puerto Rico, which could surely be enjoyed as a spectacle even by those who find Bad Bunny's actual music, if we're honest, somewhat earache-inducing. Alright, was in fact not that, but basically the first shots of the Puerto Rican-American War of 2026, and we learned this from Fox News yelper and man of whom it is hard to know whether it would be worse if he believed any of this horseshit or didn't, Jesse Waters.
Especially when it feels like the NFL is just using it as a marketing ploy to recruit Latin American audience on the heels of Latin America invading this country. 20 million pouring in, and that's what you see. You see all these foreigners speaking a foreign language with foreign flags marching into the camera like a caravan. Too soon.
Who we learned was righteously aghast at any suggestion whatsoever of Hispanic influence manifesting in a game played in Santa Clara, which is not far from San Francisco. But we learned that Waters was not the only American conservative absolutely morbidly determined that Bad Bunny's performance was basically Pearl Harbor, but with people dressed as trees instead of flying torpedo bombers. We learned that several Republican congressfolk, among them Mark Alford of Missouri's 4th District, believed that the matter required urgent investigation.
We have a lot of questions for the entities that broadcast this, and we'll be talking with Brendan Carr from the SEC about this. But this could be much worse than the Janet Jackson wardrobe malfunction. Let's put it that way.
To underpin the gravity of this situation, we repeat, much worse than the Janet Jackson wardrobe malfunction. Well, quite. And we learned that one of Congressman Alford's colleagues, the amusingly named Andy Ogles of the Tennessee 5th, believed matters may be even more serious than much worse than the Janet Jackson wardrobe malfunction. We learned this from a letter he sent, an excerpt of which will now be intoned with due solemnity by Monocle's Sanity and Normality Desk Chief, Fernando Augusto Pacheco.
Children were forced to endure explicit displays of gay sexual acts, women gyrating provocatively, and Bad Bunny shamelessly grabbing his crotch while dry humping the air. And if that weren't outrageous enough, the performance's lyrics openly glorified sodomy and countless other unspeakable depravities.
It would, of course, be even more serious if any of this was true. For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Mueller.